The millionaire is shocked to learn the black beggar was a virgin at marriage after 6 years. Richard Sterling, a name synonymous with luxury hotels and, let's be honest, a string of broken hearts. The guy could charm the birds out of the trees, then sell the trees for a profit. But Emily Carter, she was different. Fresh-faced, all sunshine and Cape Cod breezes, she'd hooked him good. Everyone whispered, gold digger, trophy wife, but 6 years ago, they'd had that fairy tale wedding in Nantucket. The catch? A 6-year waiting game. Tonight was the night. 6 years up. He was in his penthouse, overlooking Central Park, a bottle of Dom Perignon sweating. In its ice bucket, doubts, like cockroaches, were scurrying in his brain. The age gap, the socialite snickers, they'd worn him down. He glanced at Emily's wedding photo, those bright, innocent eyes, so damn different from his jaded world. Buzz, his phone, a text from Emily. Willow Creek Inn, room 203, need to talk. The Willow Creek Inn? Where they'd said I do? A cold dread gripped him. What the hell was this about? He grabbed a cab, the question burning. Why there? Why now? This felt like the end of everything he thought he knew. The inn was a postcard cliché, quaint, charming, and suffocating. A nervous bellhop led him to 203. He knocked. Creak. The door opened. Emily stood there, face like stone, holding a small, antique wooden box. Richard, she said, her voice barely a whisper, there's something you need to know. About the last 6 years. About me. She opened the box. It wasn't a love letter from some beach bum. Not a prenup twist. This was something else entirely. Something that ripped the rug out from under everything he believed. Before you even think about tonight, she said, her eyes locking with his, you need to know. Ei, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e me conta nos comentários de qual cidade você está assistindo. Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. Before you even think about tonight, she said, her eyes locking with his. You need to know. She paused, took a shaky breath. I'm not a virgin. Richard just stared. The air in the room felt thick, like wading through molasses. What? He finally managed, the word croaking out. Emily's jaw tightened. It's complicated. Before we met, back in college, there was someone. Someone. Just the word felt like a punch to the gut. 6 years he'd waited. 6 years he'd put her on a pedestal. For what? A lie? A game? He wanted to scream. To smash the bottle of Dom Perignon against the wall. Instead, he gripped the back of a chair, knuckles white. Who? He demanded, the word laced with venom. She flinched. It doesn't matter. It was a long time ago. I was young. It matters to me, he roared, the sound echoing in the quaint little room. 6 years, Emily. 6 years of celibacy, of listening to my friends joke about it, and you're telling me it was all a goddamn lie? Tears welled in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Richard. I should have told you sooner. He scoffed. Sooner? Like before the wedding? Before I signed the prenup? That seemed to hit a nerve. It had nothing to do with money, she cried. I love you. Love? What kind of love keeps secrets like this? He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up. He felt like he was going crazy. And then, just when he thought things couldn't get any worse, a voice. She's right, Richard. It had nothing to do with money. They both spun around. Standing in the doorway was Jake Miller, Richard's best friend since kindergarten. His best man. The guy he trusted more than anyone in the world. Jake walked into the room, his face grim. Emily didn't tell you because she was protecting me. Richard was beyond confused. Protecting you? What the hell are you talking about, Jake? Jake sighed, running a hand through his own hair. I was the someone Emily was talking about. We were together in college, deeply in love. And, well, let's just say that wooden box she's holding, it's not filled with love letters. Emily's face was streaked with tears. Jake, please. Jake ignored her, his eyes locked on Richard. It's filled with adoption papers, Richard. Our adoption papers. Because Emily and I had a baby, a little girl. And we gave her up for adoption because we were both too young, too broke, too stupid to know any better. The room started to spin. A baby? Jake and Emily? His wife and his best friend? And that's not even the worst part, Jake continued, his voice cracking. About a year ago, I started searching for her. I found her. Her name is Lily. She lives with her adoptive parents in Connecticut. And, well, Richard, Lily is your daughter too. And that's not even the worst part, Jake continued, his voice cracking. About a year ago, I started searching for her. I found her. Her name is Lily. She lives with her adoptive parents in Connecticut. And well, Richard, Lily is your daughter too. The room was a blur. A daughter? His daughter? With Emily? With Jake? The whole thing felt like a bad dream. He swayed, grabbed onto a chair for dear life. No, he choked out. That's impossible. Emily was sobbing now, tears streaming down her face. It's true, Richard. I'm so sorry. We were going to tell you. We just didn't know how. He looked at Jake, his best friend, his brother. Betrayal cut deeper than any knife. You knew? All this time you knew, and you didn't say a damn thing? Jake just hung his head, shame etched on his face. I messed up, Richard. I really messed up. But I swear, I was doing it to protect Lily, to protect Emily, to protect you in a twisted kind of way. Suddenly, a new voice sliced through the air. Protect him? From what? The truth? They all turned. Standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the hallway light, was a woman. Tall, elegant, with a steely glint in her eyes. It was Richard's mother, Eleanor Sterling. Richard stared dumbfounded. Mom, what are you doing here? Eleanor swept into the room, radiating an icy calm that sent shivers down Richard's spine. I think it's time everyone knew the real story, she said, her voice sharp and precise. The story about Lily, and about you, Richard. Emily and Jake exchanged terrified glances. Richard felt a knot tighten in his stomach. What was coming? What other secrets were lurking in the shadows? Eleanor fixed Richard with a cold stare. Lily is your daughter, Richard, but Jake isn't her father. Silence. a silence so thick you could cut it with a knife. Richard's head was spinning. What are you saying? Eleanor's lips curled into a cruel smile. I'm saying, darling, that Lily is your half-sister. The room tilted. The air seemed to vanish. Richard felt himself falling into an abyss of disbelief and horror. His daughter? His half-sister? Eleanor continued, her voice dripping with venom. You see, Richard, Emily and I, we had a little arrangement back then. You were sowing your wild oats, and I needed an heir. Someone to carry on the Sterling name. Someone controllable. Emily gasped, her eyes wide with shock. Eleanor, you can't! But Eleanor was unstoppable. Oh, but I can, my dear, and I will. After all, she purred, the truth always comes out in the end, doesn't it? And this is just the beginning. She smiled, a chilling, triumphant smile, and turned to leave. Enjoy your evening, she said, her voice laced with malice. I'm sure you have a lot to talk about. As she walked away, Richard stood frozen, paralyzed by the magnitude of her revelation. His life, his family, everything he thought he knew, it was all a lie. A twisted, horrifying lie, orchestrated by his own mother. He looked at Emily, at Jake, their faces etched with guilt and fear. He looked at the wooden box, at the adoption papers, symbols of a deception so profound it threatened to shatter him completely. But one thought, one terrifying thought, cut through the chaos. If Eleanor was capable of this, what else was she hiding? And what was she planning to do next? As she walked away, Richard stood frozen, paralyzed by the magnitude of her revelation. His life, his family, everything he thought he knew, it was all a lie. A twisted, horrifying lie, orchestrated by his own mother. He looked at Emily, at Jake, their faces etched with guilt and fear. He looked at the wooden box, at the adoption papers, symbols of a deception so profound it threatened to shatter him completely. But one thought, one terrifying thought, cut through the chaos. If Eleanor was capable of this, what else was she hiding? And what was she planning to do next? He needed to get out of there, now. He shoved past Jake, ignoring Emily's desperate pleas. He had to breathe, to think, to figure out what the hell was real anymore. Outside, the Nantucket air felt cold, almost mocking him. He stumbled towards the beach, the familiar sound of the waves suddenly grating on his nerves. He kicked off his shoes, the sand cold beneath his feet. Daughter, sister, his mother, manipulating everything like some kind of puppet master. It was too much, way too much. He wanted to scream, to punch something, to disappear. He closed his eyes, trying to block out the noise, the confusion, the pain. He needed answers, but who could he trust? Certainly not his mother, not Emily, not even Jake, his supposed best friend. Then a glint of something caught his eye. Half buried in the sand, almost hidden by the tide, was a small, tarnished silver locket. He picked it up, brushed off the sand. It was heart-shaped, old-fashioned, the kind his grandmother used to wear. He hesitated, then flipped it open. Inside, there was a tiny, faded photograph. A woman, not his mother, a younger woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Underneath the photo, a name. Clara. He didn't recognize the name, but something about the woman's face, it tugged at him. A faint echo of familiarity, a whisper of recognition. Then he noticed something else. Scratched into the back of the locket, almost invisible, were two words. Willow Creek. Willow Creek, the name of the inn, the place where he'd said, "I do," the place where his life had just imploded. He stared at the locket, his heart pounding. What did this mean? Who was Clara? And what did she have to do with all this? Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, walking towards him along the beach. A woman, tall, slender, with a familiar grace. His mother. "Richard," she said, her voice deceptively soft. "I see you found a little treasure." He clenched his fist around the locket. "Who is this woman, Mom?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Just a friend, darling. A very old friend." "Why is her name scratched on the back of this locket? And why does it say Willow Creek?" Her smile vanished. "Give me the locket, Richard. Tell me who she is." She lunged for him, her grip surprisingly strong. "I said give it to me." He wrestled the locket away, backing away from her. "What are you hiding, Mom? What else haven't you told me?" Her eyes narrowed, a cold, hard glint in them. "You wouldn't understand, Richard. This is complicated." "Complicated? Like you having an affair with my best friend, and then telling me my daughter is my sister?" Her face twisted in anger. "Don't you dare judge me. I did what I had to do." Suddenly, a blinding pain exploded in his head. He cried out, staggering backwards. Everything went black. When he came to, he was lying on the sand, his head throbbing. The locket was gone. His mother was gone. And standing over him, her face a mask of terror, was Emily. "Richard! Oh my God! Richard, what happened?" He tried to sit up, but his head swam. "My mother, she attacked me." Emily gasped. "Attacked you? Why?" He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. "The locket. She wanted the locket." Emily's eyes widened. "Locket? What locket?" He looked at her, his heart sinking. Could he trust her? Did he even have a choice? "It had a picture of a woman named Clara," he said, his voice hoarse. "And the words Willow Creek scratched on the back." Emily stared at him, her face pale. "Clara? Willow Creek? Richard, that's impossible." "What is it, Emily? What do you know?" She hesitated, then took a deep breath. "Willow Creek. It used to be called something else. Before they turned it into an inn, it was a sanatorium." "A sanatorium? A hospital for the mentally ill? And Clara," Emily continued, her voice barely a whisper, "Clara Sterling was your mother's sister." "His aunt? In a sanatorium?" "She died there, Richard, a long time ago. They said she was unstable." "Unstable? What did that mean? Crazy?" Suddenly, a memory flashed through his mind. A fleeting image from his childhood. A woman with kind eyes, a gentle smile, locked away in a room, screaming. He stared at Emily, his blood running cold. "My mother, she killed her, didn't she?" Emily didn't answer. She just looked at him, her eyes filled with a profound and terrifying pity. He knew the truth. He knew it in his bones. And as the pieces of the puzzle finally clicked into place, a new, even more horrifying thought washed over him. If his mother had killed her own sister, what was stopping her from killing him? If his mother had killed her own sister, what was stopping her from killing him? He looked at Emily, really looked at her. Could he trust her? A second ago, he wasn't sure. Now, he saw the fear in her eyes, the genuine concern. Maybe, just maybe, she was as much a victim in all this as he was. "Emily," he said, his voice rough, "we need to get out of here. Now." She nodded, understanding dawning on her face. "Where do we go?" "I don't know," he admitted. "Somewhere she can't find us. Somewhere safe." He helped her to her feet, and they stumbled back towards the inn. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat. Every rustle of leaves sounded like Eleanor creeping up on them. They had to be quick. Back inside, the inn was eerily quiet. No sign of Jake. No sign of his mother. Just the lingering scent of betrayal and fear. He grabbed Emily's hand. And they ran. They didn't stop running until they were miles away, huddled in a cheap motel room, miles from Nantucket. He needed time to think, but the truth was chasing them. He sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. This was insane. His life was a goddamn movie, a really bad one. "Richard," Emily said softly, "what are we going to do?" He looked up at her, his eyes hollow. "I don't know, Emily. I really don't. But I know one thing. My mother is dangerous. We have to figure out what she's planning, and we have to stop her." Suddenly, the TV flickered on. A news report. A familiar face flashed across the screen. Eleanor Sterling. In a shocking turn of events, philanthropist Eleanor Sterling has announced her candidacy for the United States Senate. Mrs. Sterling, a longtime supporter of... He stared at the screen, his jaw dropping. Senate? His mother? This was all making a sick kind of sense now. She needed power, control, and he, his aunt, anyone who got in her way. States Senate has released a statement regarding recent rumors surrounding her family. She vehemently denies all allegations and... His phone rang. An unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. "Richard, darling." His mother's voice dripped with false sweetness. "I see you're watching the news. Impressive, isn't it?" "What do you want, Mom?" he growled. "Oh, just to let you know that your little treasure hunt ends here. Come home, Richard. Come home and everything will be all right." "Or what? You'll kill me like you killed Aunt Clara?" Silence. Then a chilling laugh. "Clara was a necessary sacrifice, and so might you be, darling, if you don't cooperate." The line went dead. He threw the phone across the room, smashing it against the wall. He was trapped. He had to do something. But what? Emily put a hand on his arm. "Richard, there's something you need to know. Something I've been hiding." He looked at her, his heart sinking. More secrets? More lies? Could this get any worse? "Remember that wooden box?" she asked softly. "The one with the adoption papers?" He nodded grimly. "There was something else in there. Something I didn't show you." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. It was old, yellowed, and covered in writing. "What is it?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Emily hesitated, then handed him the paper. "It's a letter from your Aunt Clara." He unfolded the letter, his hands trembling. The handwriting was shaky, almost illegible. He squinted, trying to make out the words. "My dearest Richard," the letter began. "If you are reading this, It means I am gone, and it means Eleanor has finally gotten what she wanted. But please, my sweet boy, do not despair. The truth will come out, and when it does, you must be brave, you must be strong, because Eleanor is not who you think she is. She is not your mother. He stopped reading, his breath catching in his throat. Not his mother? What the hell did that mean? He looked at Emily, his eyes wide with disbelief. What? What is she saying? Emily took a deep breath. Richard, Clara wasn't just your mother's sister. She was your mother. Eleanor is your aunt. Richard, Clara wasn't just your mother's sister. She was your mother. The motel room swam. The cheap wallpaper, the buzzing fluorescent light, Emily's pale face, it all blurred into a sickening mess. My mother wasn't my mother. My aunt was my mother? It was too much. Way too much. That's impossible, I choked out, the words feeling like gravel in my throat. Emily shook her head, tears welling in her eyes again. It's true, Richard. Eleanor couldn't have children. Clara got pregnant with you, but Eleanor wanted the sterling heir. So she took you. She raised you as her own, and she locked Clara away. Locked her away. In that sanatorium. My real mother. My God. Suddenly, a memory surfaced. Clearer this time. A small boy, no older than 5, sneaking into a darkened room. A woman with kind eyes, smiling sadly, behind a barred window. He'd brought her a flower, a dandelion he'd picked from the garden. She'd reached through the bars, her fingers brushing his, and whispered, "I love you, Richard. Never forget that." Then a sharp voice, pulling him away. "Richard, what have I told you about visiting her?" Eleanor, her face twisted with rage. That woman. That was Clara. My mother. Rage, hot and blinding, surged through me. I stood up so abruptly, I knocked the cheap table over, sending a plastic ice bucket crashing to the floor. "That?" I roared, the sound echoing in the tiny room. "She stole my life! She stole my mother!" "Richard, calm down," Emily pleaded, grabbing my arm. "We need to think. We need a plan." Plan? What plan? My entire life was a lie. My mother was a psychopath, and she was running for Senate. Then, another thought, colder than ice, struck me. If Eleanor wasn't my mother, who was my father? I stared at Emily, my mind racing. "Do you know who my father is? Did Clara ever say anything?" Emily hesitated, her eyes darting away. She knew something. I could see it. "Emily, tell me!" I demanded, my voice raw with desperation. She took a shaky breath. "Clara, she wrote about him in her diary. She said he was powerful, influential. Someone Eleanor could never touch. Powerful, influential. Someone Eleanor couldn't touch. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but the picture they formed was terrifying. Who, Emily? Who was he? She closed her eyes, bracing herself. His name was Joseph Kennedy. Kennedy, as in the Kennedys? I stared at her, my mind reeling. It was insane. Absolutely insane. But it also made a twisted kind of sense. The power, the influence, the secrets. Then the door burst open. Not Eleanor, not Jake. A man. Tall, impeccably dressed, with eyes that were strangely familiar. He strode into the room, radiating an aura of power and authority. "Richard Sterling," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "It's time we had a talk. I'm Robert Kennedy Jr., and I believe I'm your brother." "Richard Sterling," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "It's time we had a talk. I'm Robert Kennedy Jr., and I believe I'm your brother." Brother? Another brother? Jesus, how many skeletons were in this family closet? My head was spinning. I looked at Emily, her face a mixture of shock and, was that pity? God, I hated that look. "This is insane," I managed to croak out. Just completely insane. Kennedy, my brother, apparently, stepped further into the room, his eyes never leaving mine. "I know this is a lot to take in, Richard, but it's true. Clara was my father's lover. For years. He helped her, protected her, even after Eleanor had her committed." He helped her? My father, this Kennedy, helped my mother? But why didn't he get her out? I asked, the question tumbling out before I could stop it. Why didn't he save her? Kennedy's face darkened. He tried. Believe me, he tried. But Eleanor, she was too powerful, too ruthless. He was afraid she would destroy everything if he interfered directly. So he helped her in secret. He made sure she was comfortable, that she had the best care possible. Best care possible? Locked away in a sanatorium? That was his idea of best care? He knew about me, didn't he? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He knew I was his son. Kennedy nodded. He did. He wanted to acknowledge you, to bring you into the family. But again, Eleanor threatened him. She said she would expose the affair, ruin his career, destroy his family. He couldn't risk it. Couldn't risk it. His career was more important than his own son. Just like Eleanor's political ambitions were more important than, well, everything. Suddenly, the door flew open again. This time it was Jake. His face was pale, his eyes wide with panic. "Richard, we have to get out of here. Now," he yelled, grabbing my arm. "Eleanor knows where we are. She's on her way." I looked at Jake, then back at Kennedy. My head was pounding. Who could I trust? Who was telling the truth? "What's going on, Jake?" I demanded. "What aren't you telling me?" Jake hesitated, then blurted out, "Eleanor, she hired someone, a hitman. He's coming for you, Richard. He's going to kill you." A hitman? Jesus Christ. This was getting more insane by the minute. I looked at Kennedy. Was this part of his plan? Was he in on it? Then, Kennedy did something that shocked me even more than his earlier revelation. He pulled out a gun. A gun. In a cheap motel room with me, Emily, and Jake. This was it. This was how it all ended. But then, Kennedy turned the gun on Jake. "He's the hitman, Richard," Kennedy said, his voice cold as ice. "Eleanor hired him to kill you. He's been playing you all along." Jake's face crumpled. "No, that's not true. Richard, you have to believe me. I was trying to protect you." But I didn't believe him. Not anymore. All the pieces suddenly clicked into place. Jake's sudden appearance, his panicked warnings, his constant proximity. It all made sense. He was the one who betrayed me. He was the one who was going to kill me. But then, something even more shocking happened. Emily screamed. Not a scream of fear, but a scream of pain. She clutched at her chest, her face contorted in agony. Then she collapsed to the floor. "Emily!" I yelled, rushing to her side. "What's wrong? What happened?" She looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears. I can't breathe," she gasped. "The tea, she poisoned me." "Poisoned? Eleanor poisoned Emily? But why?" Then I saw it, a small empty teacup on the bedside table, and next to it, a tiny, almost invisible vial. I looked at Jake, his face a mask of horror. But it wasn't him. I knew. It was Eleanor. She had somehow gotten to Emily, poisoned her, and now Emily's eyes closed. Her body went limp. "Emily!" I screamed, shaking her. "Emily, wake up! Don't die on me!" But it was too late. Emily was gone. And then Robert Kennedy Jr. lowered the gun and pointed it directly at me. "I'm so sorry, Richard," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "But it has to be this way. Eleanor can't win." He didn't say I would die. Instead, Eleanor can't win. My own half-brother. About to kill me. Because Eleanor can't win. What the hell was going on? As he pulled the trigger, I finally understood. It wasn't about power. It wasn't about politics. It was about something much darker. Something much more twisted. Eleanor wasn't just trying to win. She was trying to erase me. And she was willing to kill anyone who stood in her way, including her own son, or nephew, or whatever the hell I was to her. But then, just as the bullet left the chamber, something incredible happened. Something that changed everything. Something that I never could have predicted in a million years. Jake jumped in front of me, taking the bullet meant for me. He crumpled to the floor, blood gushing from his chest. But as he fell, he managed to grab Kennedy's arm. Throwing off his aim, the bullet missed me. It hit the wall, ricocheting off and striking something else. Something that made the whole room shake. Something that made the motel tremble. Something that triggered an alarm, so loud it drowned out all other sounds. I looked around, dazed and confused. What had happened? What had the bullet hit? Then I saw it. Behind Kennedy on the wall was a small, innocuous-looking fire alarm. And underneath the fire alarm, hidden behind a loose panel, was a single flickering wire. A wire connected to a massive, industrial-sized bomb. And then I realized what Eleanor had been planning all along. She wasn't just trying to kill me. She was trying to kill all of us. She was trying to blow up the entire motel. And she was willing to take anyone down with her, including her own son and her nephew, and whoever else happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But why? Why would she do something so insane, so reckless, so evil? Then I saw it. Scrawled on the wall, in big, bold letters, was a single, chilling word. Kennedy. And then I understood. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about Eleanor. It wasn't even about Clara. It was about revenge. A decades-old vendetta. A burning hatred that had consumed Eleanor's soul and driven her to the brink of madness. She wasn't trying to win. She was trying to destroy. And she was willing to die trying. But why the Kennedys? What had they ever done to her? And then the world exploded. The world exploded. Debris rained down. I was thrown backwards, slamming into what was left of the bed. My ears were ringing. I couldn't see, couldn't breathe. Then silence. an eerie, suffocating silence. I coughed, trying to clear my lungs. Smoke filled the air. The motel room was gone. Just rubble, twisted metal, burning wood. I crawled out from under the debris, blinking, trying to focus. Kennedy, Jake, Emily, all gone. Blown to bits. Or so I thought. Suddenly, a hand reached out from the rubble, grabbing my arm. I jumped, startled. Who was it? Who was still alive? I pulled, and a figure emerged from the smoke. Jake. Alive. Barely. His face was covered in blood. His chest was a mess. But he was alive. "Richard," he gasped, his voice weak. You have to get out of here." "What about you?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I can't leave you." "Don't worry about me," he said, coughing. I deserve this. Just go. Get as far away from Eleanor as you can." Then he coughed again, and a stream of blood trickled down his chin. His eyes closed. He was gone. I stared at his lifeless body, numb. Jake, my best friend, my almost killer, dead. Then a voice, a familiar voice, a voice that sent chills down my spine. "Leaving so soon, Richard? The party's just getting started." I turned slowly, my heart pounding. Eleanor. She was standing amidst the wreckage, her face illuminated by the flickering flames. She was covered in dirt and ash, but her eyes were still burning with that same cold, malevolent fire. You did this," I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "You blew up the motel?" She smiled, a cruel, twisted smile. "Collateral damage, darling. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a few pawns to win the game." Pawns. That's what we were to her. Pawns in her sick, twisted game. Then she raised her hand, and a figure emerged from the shadows. A figure I never expected to see again. Emily, alive, standing next to Eleanor, holding a gun. "Emily?" I stammered, my mind reeling. What's going on?" She looked at me, her eyes cold and distant. There was no warmth, no love, no recognition in them. Just a chilling emptiness. "It's all been a lie, Richard," she said, her voice flat and emotionless. "All of it. The love, the waiting, the secrets. It was all part of the plan." "Plan? What plan?" Then Eleanor spoke, her voice dripping with triumph. "Emily is my daughter, Richard. My real daughter. The one I never told you about." "Daughter? Emily was Eleanor's daughter? But how?" "I couldn't have children, remember?" Eleanor said, her smile widening. "But Emily, she was a gift, a secret I kept hidden for years, until now." Emily raised the gun, pointing it directly at me. "I'm so sorry, Richard," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "But it's time for you to disappear." And then I understood. It wasn't about the Kennedys. It wasn't about revenge. It was about family, about power, about securing the sterling legacy for generations to come. And I, the illegitimate son of a madwoman, was standing in the way. But then something unexpected happened. Something that changed everything. Emily lowered the gun. She turned to Eleanor, her face contorted in rage. "I can't do it, Mom," she said, her voice shaking. "I can't kill him." Eleanor's smile vanished. Her eyes narrowed, her face twisting with fury. "What did you say?" she hissed. "I said, I can't do it," Emily yelled, her voice filled with defiance. "I'm not like you. I'm not a monster." And then she did something that I never thought possible. She pointed the gun at Eleanor. "This ends now, Mom," she said, her voice trembling. But firm. "It all ends right here." But before Emily could pull the trigger, a shot rang out. Not from Emily's gun. From somewhere else. From the shadows. Emily crumpled to the ground, a bullet hole in her forehead. Eleanor stared at her daughter's lifeless body, her face a mask of shock and disbelief. Then she turned slowly, her eyes searching the shadows. "Who's there?" she screamed, her voice filled with rage and terror. "Show yourself." A figure emerged from the darkness. A figure I recognized instantly. A figure I thought was dead. Robert Kennedy Jr. But he wasn't holding a gun. He was holding something else. A badge. A badge that read, "Federal Bureau of Investigation. Eleanor Sterling," he said, his voice cold and authoritative. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, terrorism, and a long list of other federal crimes." Eleanor stared at him, her face a mixture of rage, terror, and utter disbelief. "You," she stammered. "But how?" Kennedy smiled, a cold, humorless smile. "Let's just say I'm not as easily fooled as you thought, and I've been playing you all along." Then he turned to me, his eyes filled with a strange mixture of pity and regret. "I'm sorry, Richard," he said, his voice softer now. "But you need to know the truth about everything. About your mother, about Eleanor, and about what you really are." He paused, taking a deep breath. "Your name isn't Richard Sterling," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "It's Richard Kennedy, and you're the rightful heir to the Kennedy fortune." And then everything went black. Again. But this time, it wasn't from an explosion. It was from the sheer, overwhelming weight of the truth. And then everything went black. Again. But this time, it wasn't from an explosion. It was from the sheer, overwhelming weight of the truth. Heir to the Kennedy fortune? Me? Richard Sterling? The guy who thought he was a millionaire spoiled brat? It was too much. Way too much. I woke up in a hospital bed. White walls, beeping machines, the smell of antiseptic. Classic. Kennedy was there, sitting next to me. He looked tired, but determined. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his voice low. "Like I got hit by a train," I croaked. "What happened? Is Eleanor?" "Eleanor's in custody. She's not going anywhere. As for what happens to her," he trailed off, shaking his head, "that's for the courts to decide." "And Emily?" I asked, the name a painful lump in my throat. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I knew. "I'm sorry, Richard," he said finally. "She was complicated. A victim in her own way." Victim? Killer? It was all so messed up, so twisted. "What about Jake?" I asked, dreading the answer. "He's a hero, Richard. He saved your life." Kennedy paused, a strange look in his eyes. "And in a way, he saved mine too." "He saved yours? What was that supposed to mean?" "There's something else you need to know," Kennedy said, leaning closer. "Something I've been putting off telling you." I braced myself. What now? What other bombshell was he about to drop? About Jake, he began, his voice hesitant. He wasn't just your friend. My heart sank. Oh God, was there something going on between Jake and Emily? Was that why Eleanor? He was something more, Kennedy continued, his eyes locking with mine. He was your twin brother. Twin brother? Jake? My twin brother? How was that even possible? Clara, she had twins, Kennedy explained, his voice strained. But Eleanor only wanted one. She took you, Richard, and she left Jake behind. Left him behind? My own mother abandoned my twin brother? He grew up in foster care, Kennedy said, his voice dropping to a whisper. He never knew who his real family was. Until now. Until now. And now he was dead. He died saving the brother he never knew he had. I closed my eyes, tears streaming down my face. It was too much pain, too much loss, too much truth. Then, Kennedy said something that made my blood run cold. There's one more thing, Richard. One last secret. I opened my eyes, fear gripping me. What could possibly be worse than what I'd already learned? Kennedy took a deep breath. Eleanor wasn't just trying to protect the Sterling legacy, he said, his voice trembling. She was trying to protect something else, something far more valuable. He paused, his eyes searching mine, gauging my reaction. She wasn't trying to protect the Sterling name, Richard. She was trying to protect the child. The child. What child? The child she had with Jake. The room started to spin. Eleanor and Jake, a child? It was the ultimate betrayal, Richard, Kennedy said, his voice barely audible. She slept with her own nephew, and she had a child. A child that threatens to expose everything. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a photograph. He handed it to me, his hand shaking. I looked at the photo. A young girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old. She had bright blue eyes and a mischievous smile. She looked familiar. Then I noticed something else. A birthmark. A small crescent-shaped birthmark on her left cheek. I knew that birthmark. I'd seen it before. On someone else. On myself. I looked at Kennedy, my mind reeling. That's impossible, I stammered. That can't be. Kennedy shook his head, his eyes filled with a mixture of pity and horror. It's true, Richard, he said, his voice barely a whisper. That girl, that's not Eleanor's granddaughter. That's her. You're not Richard Kennedy, heir to the Kennedy fortune. You're Eleanor Sterling, a 5-year-old girl kidnapped by Clara Kennedy after murdering her own father. And you're wanted for the murder of Jake Miller. Eu era Eleanor, a assassina, a menina sequestrada? Impossível. Mas a foto, aquele sinal na bochecha, era eu. Minha mente se recusava a aceitar. Uma vida inteira, uma mentira. Mais uma. Kennedy me olhava, pena nos olhos. Precisamos ir, ele disse. Eles estão vindo. Quem? Para me proteger ou para me prender? Não importava. Eu não era Richard Sterling. Nunca fui. Quem eu era, eu não sabia. Corremos. De novo. Para onde? Não fazia diferença. Eu estava fugindo de mim mesmo. Da verdade. De um passado que não era meu. Dias depois, estávamos em uma cabana isolada. Kennedy me contou tudo. Clara, a sanatório, o plano de vingança de Eleanor. Minha vida, ou a vida que me forçaram a viver. E Jake, meu irmão, meu herói, morto, por mim, por Eleanor. A polícia chegou, não para me prender, para me proteger. Kennedy havia convencido a todos. Eu era a vítima. A menina sequestrada. Eleanor foi presa, julgada, condenada. Sua história, o fim, ou quase. Anos se passaram. Tentei me adaptar ao nome, à fortuna, à família Kennedy. Mas não era eu. Não era quem eu queria ser. Um dia, encontrei uma caixa no sótão da antiga casa de Clara. Dentro, cartas, fotos, um diário, a verdade sobre ela, sobre Eleanor, sobre mim, e no fundo da caixa, uma passagem de navio para o Brasil, com o nome de Richard Sterling. Quem era esse Richard? Para onde estava indo? E por que Clara guardou essa passagem? Eu precisava saber. Eu precisava encontrá-lo. Eu precisava de respostas. A viagem me aguarda. Ei, espera aí. A história acabou, mas a aventura está só começando. Você precisa se inscrever agora no canal para não perder as próximas histórias incríveis que estão por vir. Esmague o botão de like agora mesmo para alimentar o algoritmo e mostrar seu apoio. Inunde a seção de comentários com suas reações e teorias sobre esse final explosivo. Queremos saber tudo o que você achou. E por último, mas não menos importante, compartilhe instantaneamente este vídeo com pelo menos 5 amigos que precisam conhecer este desfecho. Este é o momento para demonstrar seu apoio e provar que você é um verdadeiro fã. Não espere nem mais um segundo. Compartilhe agora.